Are you tired of perfectly lining up your sights only to pull the trigger and have the rounds go everywhere except the center of the target? Using this simple drill that I'll share with you today, which will work for absolutely everybody, I was able to fix my friend's flinch in under 5 minutes, and I can help you do the same. But before I give you the drill which will help you fix your flinch in under 5 minutes, I first have to explain to you what will happen if you follow the outdated conventional advice and you don't follow my advice. So the story goes something like this. You go to the range and you notice a nice boomer gentleman walking over to you who notices that you have a flinch. He then proceeds to tell you proudly about how he fixed his flinch over 50 years ago when he was in the military. He recalls firing thousands and thousands of rounds and being yelled at by his instructors non-stop. He points out to you the joy he felt once he eventually got rid of his flinch. He gives you a little sly smirk and tells you, "Son, you're gonna have to live with that flinch until you shoot 3,000 to 5,000 rounds." So that's perhaps not the best way to go about it, but if you're fine with spending thousands of dollars on ammunition and getting worse before you actually get better, then go for the repeated exposure method. So if that's not the right answer, what should you do then? Tactical Tim thinks he has the answer. Picture this, you go to a high-speed, state-of-the-art, la-di-da, modern, fancy gun range with all the bells and whistles, and in the corner of your eye you notice him. It's Tactical Tim. You decide to ignore him and just go about your business, but the second you fire your first round, he pops up like a jack-in-the-box and tells you that you have a flinch. He tells you to immediately go home and not return to the range until you have done at least 50 hours of dry fire practice. In reality, all that's gonna happen is you're gonna perfectly get rid of your flinch at home because your brain knows the gun's unloaded, and the second you go to the range and load the gun again, your flinch will be back strong as ever as if nothing even happened. So now that I've debunked the conventional advice of repeated exposure and dry fire, you're asking yourself, well, what else is there? What am I supposed to do? I'm glad you asked. Literally in less time than it takes you to watch this video, I've watched new shooters go from wild, sporadic groupings to tight, controlled groupings, and the difference is day and night. The first step deactivates your brain's flinch response, and the second step intentionally primes your brain's flinch response. It's a flywheel of positive feedback, and here's how it works. You want to start with dry firing. Once you're sure that it's clear, do 3 consecutive dry fires, and a critical point with these dry fires is you do not want those sights to move 1 millimeter or even a fraction of a millimeter. You want to focus on keeping them as still as possible as you're doing those dry fire trigger presses. Just real quick, if you're interested in elevating your skills past the novice phase in hours instead of months, click the top link in description, but back to the drill. Once you've done the dry fire sequence, the next step is to load 1 round of ammunition into the firearm, and to then proceed to fire that round without flinching. Now, you're probably gonna flinch the first few times, but I want you to focus on not flinching. I want you to try as hard as possible not to flinch. And then, of course, the third step is to just do that repeatedly until you don't have a flinch. Now, depending on your skill level, it could take 5 rounds, or it might take 10 rounds, maybe 20 rounds. And I know this sounds very simple, but I promise you, if you do this, it works like magic and your flinch will be gone. Click on this video